It's a fascinating time of the year. And I don't mean that in the sense that because the leaves are starting to change or are changing, but because you can't help but turn on the TV to try to watch a show and not be confronted with a sort of strange nastiness and bitterness that we have come, sadly, to expect with our political system and with our voting. You see, we can watch a show, we can watch one of our favorite programs, and we'll see an ad, and it'll say, you should vote for this person because they're a fine, upstanding person. That other person that they're running against is literally the devil, and you should not vote for them at any cost. 5 minutes later, during the next commercial break, a different commercial for the guy that the first person just said is literally the devil. And he says, you should vote for me because I am a fine, upstanding, moral citizen who will work for you. And the other person is literally the devil. Our political system, our political ideologies have become so divisive and so nasty that what happens is, instead of doing the thing where you create a logical argument, you attack the person. You try to belittle them. You try to show that this person or this candidate is much better, and anyone else who believes any differently is just the biggest idiot in the world. Because everyone wants to back the winner. Everyone wants to feel as if they're powerful, as if they're in charge, as if they're the best. And that's what our politics have become. It's almost become less about trying to help people, less about what would be for the greater good, and more about trying to get to be the number one person. Doing things to show that you're the best. And I mean, I get it. I really do, because it's a common human problem. We as people, we want to be the best. We don't like to be in second place. We don't like to be in third place. We want to be number one. We think and we say, if you ain't first, you're last. And so we go out of our way to be the best, to strive to be better than other people. Now, it's perfectly natural to have pride in oneself, to have pride in one's abilities. But to get so full of yourself that you're missing out on what it is we're supposed to be doing, how we're supposed to be doing things, it's very heartbreaking. It's very sad. I would never want to be in politics. I've thought about it, not running, but what kind of campaign would I run? And I don't think the type of campaign that I would want to run, I would be able to do. Because I would not say anything negative about my opponent. You could just say, well, I disagree with them and here's why. But we don't like that. We don't like humble. We like loud. We like braggadocious. We like big, strong, powerful things. That's what we always want to see. And we want to be that way. We want to have the best. We want to be the best. And the problem is that this runs counter to how we are called to live our lives. Our reading in Mark today has James and John, the sons of Zebedee, do something very strange and very foolish. They go up to Jesus and they say, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you." And Jesus doesn't say, well, this isn't going to happen. He says, well, okay, well, then tell me, what is it you want me to do? What can I do for you? Now, here's off the bat why this is so fascinating. Because they're asking this of Jesus. And if they're asking this of Jesus, what they're doing is they're asking it of God. Because we believe in a triune God. God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. One God in three persons. And so if you're making a request of Jesus, you're making a request to God, the creator of the universe, the one who set all things in motion, who has done all things in this world. This is what they're asking. So they get this chance. They've seized the moment. They're not throwing away their shot. And they ask Jesus. He said, "Grant us to sit, one at your right hand and one at your left, in your glory." Power seats. Sitting at the right, sitting at the left hand of someone, those are the seats that you want to have. You're right next to them. And even in our modern language, what do we say? "Oh, that's my right-hand man." Because it's a very powerful position. To sit next to a king, to sit next to a dignitary, to sit next to a celebrity, we understand and we know that this is a powerful position. And this is what they ask for. Give us power. Give us clout. And give us the ability to be exalted above other people. Let us be there. So Jesus doesn't outright say no. It's very interesting what he does, and his response to James and John is very fascinating because, again, he doesn't say no right off the bat. You don't know what you're asking for. He says, you don't understand. You think you get it, Jesus says, but you have no idea what it is you're asking for. Are you able to drink of the cup that I drink or be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with? You see, because Jesus knows what he's doing. Jesus knows what's coming up for him. He knows where his fate lies. And he says, can you do this? And they say, oh yeah, it's a piece of cake, We got that. We can do that. Be nice to everybody. Be kind. You give us some magic powers. We'll go heal people. It'll be great. It'll be the most best thing ever in the world. And he says, the cup that I drink, you will drink. And with the baptism with which I am baptized, you will be baptized. He says it's going to happen to you. Now, he doesn't get into specifics here. He says, if this is what you want, if you want to be like me, if you want to follow me, those things will happen. But you see, Jesus is alluding to the cup of his suffering, the baptism of his death. And they don't understand that because of how they view Jesus. You see, they view Jesus as this sort of giant, massive, larger-than-life figure. And yes, Jesus is that. But Jesus is also a very humble, down-to-earth, nice guy. He's the kind of guy that would just come up to you and start talking to you. And just have a nice conversation with you. Not lording over his power. Not walking around with this swagger, but taking time to get to people's level. One of my favorite clips I've ever seen on the internet is a clip of celebrities doing interviews and doing an interview with a child. And so what you have is you have this height discrepancy, and the question becomes, how do we deal with this? And most celebrities, when they're talking to children, they'll look down or, talk like this. But every so often, a celebrity will do something amazing. They'll squat to get eye level with the child, treating them not as a child, but as an equal, helping them to feel as if they have an amount of power in the world. Because here's this famous person, and they're right next to me, not looking down on me, but treating me as an equal. And we don't think that celebrities would do things like that. But this is exactly what God has done for us. God has come to be with humanity, to sort of stoop to our level, as it were, not to lord his power over us, but to guide us, to lovingly show us how we are supposed to be. Part of that involves service. And Jesus makes this very clear. To sit at my right hand or my left hand is not mine to grant, but it is for those for whom it has been prepared. And he says, this isn't something that I'm giving away. This is something that will be given away. But it's not something you can earn. You can't earn being Jesus' favorite. You can't earn being the best. Naturally, the other 10 disciples hear this, and they get very mad. They start arguing and hooping and hollering with James and John. Have you ever been with children and one of them does something or gets something that the other ones don't? I have. And it's kind of a terrifying experience. Well, why do they get to do this? Why did they get candy? Why did they get that money? Why did they do this? And they start fighting, and they start being aggravated, and they start yelling. Because they too want something. They think that, well, now this person is better than me. They have something more than me. And of course, have you ever been with children when they get something extra, when they get something special, and they rub it into another child's face? I have. And it's almost as bad as the other. Because now they feel as if they are elevated, that they're better, that they have this power, this extra toy, this extra money, this extra piece of candy. They have all of these things, and now they can lord it over the peasants and walk around as if they are the king or the queen of all things. The other 10 disciples hear James and John ask to be elevated, ask to be put above them, and their natural reaction is, well, that's not good, because why not me? When's going to be my time, they ask. Why can't we be better? And they start fighting about who's better, which is the better disciple. They start arguing, jockeying for position, and they're doing this right in front of Jesus. It's not like they wait and go to a separate room and be like, hey, let me take you aside and talk to you a minute. Like, what's going on here? Why do you think you need to be better than the rest of them? They don't do that. They start arguing in front of the creator of the universe. And they're arguing about who's going to be the best. And Jesus calls them over. He takes them all aside and he says, okay, look. You have this idea of power. You have this idea of these things completely wrong and completely backwards. So he starts giving them a little bit of a cultural lesson that they should already know. He says, you know that among the Gentiles, those whom they recognize as their rulers lord it over them, and their great ones are tyrants over them. He says, you know what people do. When they have power, they show it. They flex it. They have to show that they win, that they are the best. You know this. This is what the Gentiles do. And he says, but guess what, guys? Y'all ain't Gentiles. You shouldn't be acting like that. But it is not so among you. And he drops the biggest bombshell in history on them. But whoever wishes to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wishes to be first among you must be a slave of all. Completely counter to what they were trying to do. You see, the rulers, the ones with the power, they have people work for them. They get to live in the life of luxury. They get to have things given to them. They get to have things done for them. They don't have to worry about this. They don't have to worry about that. People who will wash you if you need washed. People who will give you massages if you feel tense. People who will clean your house or your room for you. That's what the rich and the powerful do. They make more servants. And Jesus says, let's try this paradigm shift out. He says, you want to be the best, you want to have the most power, you want to win no matter what and have all this wonderful clout and everything, then serve everyone else. He very plainly says to them, if you want to be the best, make yourself the least. And that is so counter to what we think, that is so counter to our culture, that is so counter to how we feel the world should be. That if you're the best, you should have people falling at your feet. If you have power, you should have the power to flex it and to do whatever you want. And Jesus says, not so. If you want to be great, serve everyone. For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. You would think the King of all things, the King of kings, the Lord of lords, would want to be in such a high, elevated position. That Jesus would want to be able to do anything that he wanted to do. And he wouldn't need to ask for anything. He wouldn't have to worry about anything. They would just heap blessings and riches upon him simply for being him. And he says, no, it's the exact opposite. He said, the Son of Man came to serve you. The Son of Man came to be with you, to help you. Imagine a former president changing your tire when you're stuck on the side of the road. Imagine a celebrity carrying your groceries to the car for you. It would blow our minds. We wouldn't be able to handle it. You see, but here's the thing. Jesus is the Savior of the world. He has this weight, he has this power, he has this responsibility placed upon him. And surely, as the creator of the world, the one who set all things in motion, he should be able to do whatever he wants. He has the power already. He has the clout already. But here's the funny thing about power. If you have the power to do something, to make things better, you have a moral obligation to use that power in a responsible manner. I think it's no secret that I'm a fan of, sort of like superhero stories and things like that. And one of the most famous lines ever is from Spider-Man. First appearance of Spider-Man, Amazing Fantasy, issue 15. And the line that we hear today is, with great power comes great responsibility. I'm sure you've all heard that. And if you've heard it, you done heard it wrong. Because that's not what Stan Lee wrote in the original comic. What he writes is that Spider-Man realizes that with great power, there must also come great responsibility. That there is this imperative that he realizes, since I have the power to make things better, since I have the power to change the world, I now am thrust into having responsibility, to using that power responsibly. It's not a conditional statement as it's been twisted by our culture today, but it is this statement that says, if this happens, then this must also come as a logical result from it. Do we still want power? Do we still want clout? Because I got to tell you, the cost of having the power to change things, to fix things, is very, very high. In my family, and this is sort of a humble brag, and that's fine. I am the best tomato soup and grilled cheese maker in my house. Okay, it's not that my wife doesn't do it well. It's that when I get going, I look like Gordon Ramsay, just flipping sandwiches, making sure the soup is right, getting it just nice with a little bit of butter, a little bit of cream, and it's so savory and mouth-watery, and I'm just going to town on these grilled cheeses, and everyone loves it. So whenever someone says they want grilled cheese and tomato soup, regardless of how I'm feeling, If we're all sick, what's everyone want when they're sick? Soup to feel better. And so then it becomes, well, I don't really feel well either, but I need to make the grilled cheese and tomato soup because it's this thing that I do. We have people, we have specialists that we go to for advice, for things that we need, because they have the power to give good advice or to help fix that problem. If my foot's hurting, I'm not going to go to a cardiologist and ask them to fix my foot. I'm going to go to a doctor who specializes with feet. Because they have the knowledge, they have the power to do that. And because they have that power, they feel this call, this obligation in order to fix the world as best they can. See, there's this wonderful saying that we are supposed to be third. That the hierarchy of the entire world is based on the premise that you as an individual, that I as an individual, I'm third. I'm in third place. I will always be third place. Well, then who's in first place? That one's an obvious one. God. God is in first place. So the hierarchy of people that we need to serve and to make happy and that we need to help starts with God. Number 2 is literally everyone else on the planet. And I'm third. Jesus says, whoever wishes to be first must be a slave of all. To go out of their way to help people. To put the needs of the many ahead of the needs of the few. To do things that might be counter to what we want to do, might be counter to how we feel things should be. To put others before us. And I hate to say this. It breaks my heart that I have to say it. That's countercultural today, isn't it? Because again, we want to be the best. We want to be the winner. We want to just win, win, win. We want to have so much winning, we'll get tired of it. We want to be the best. We want to be the loudest. We want to be the peacocks and showing off our feathers. We want people to know who we are and to lord it over them. And Jesus says, no. If you want to be great, help people. Serve others. Put yourself last. Why would we do something so crazy? Because Jesus did. And if we want to get serious about calling ourselves the disciples of Christ, that we act in a Christ-like manner, shouldn't we also try to act like Christ? Amen.